All right, so I got the beams mocked up. You could see here how much the factory cross member. This was the front edge and this was the middle boxing piece. But if you look straight down the beams here, you can see that they would hit this cross member. So it's cut out, and then at full bump, the diff barely touches this in this little spot. So once we get the motor mocked up, I'll put this up here, cut this to notch it, and then as well as that bump, I will box this back in. Now, what I'm going to do now is box the frame from here to behind the front cab roll cage mount on both sides. This is the factory steering box mount. It was like curved like a web in this area. So we cut that off so I could do the straight boxing. Cut this piece here. We cut this right here so then I could hammer this part in, so then when I box, it'll just have a little jog and it'll match back up to the frame. Alright everyone, as you can see here, we got the frame boxed. The motor mount will be hitting in this area. So I'll be running a tube to a bushing and boxing that all in. Then this side, still how it was from the factory. Started to notch the steering box, old steering box mount. I will probably be cutting it all the way off and boxing the frame just like the passenger side, so that's a nice clean flat surface to weld the motor mounts onto. I'll also be boxing the frame in front of the cross member on both sides as well. Alright, here's the driver's side frame plate. I had to put a little bend in it here just to clear this spot in the frame. And then where the roll cage ties into the outer part of the frame, I did weld an inner brace that ties in to this cut on the outer brace, so we'll be able to weld all the way around. So when a roll cage hits the frame, when you're boxing it, I try to add an inner gusset rib, so it's not just an open box that could dent if the truck sees extreme force. So that's why I always try to box it. And then this side here, I also did the same thing because the same applies to the passenger side. Alright, got this frame plate fitted. The sides left and right are exactly the same, but I made this one from this point slightly taller than the other side because I had to tack it, cut a slight relief because I had to have a jog in, and then I tacked it here good, and then I was able to hammer this down. So now I'm going to be able to put a good weld right here to this point. Then I'll do a new weld from the factory frame boxing, and then another weld here, and then all the way around. So now I need to do the same thing to the bottom, and then this one will be good to get the motor mount, put it on, and finish welded after that's in place. So just made up a couple LS motor mounts to get this thing in the truck. I did some 1 3/4 120 wall tubing, bushings, sleeves, 5/8 bolt. Then if you notice that I have the bolts coming in from opposite directions, this will be the passenger side motor mount. And I did that so the bolt will come in from the front. Same with this side, driver's side motor mount, the bolt will come in from the front. I also only put a web gusset on the top side of the motor mounts because when these are bolted onto the motor and all these are welded to the frame, I like to be able to lift the motor directly up to get it off. If it was gusseted top and bottom, you'd have to basically pull these 4 bolts on each motor mount to get the motor out. And then when you go to put the motor in, you'd have to put these on there and then start these 4 bolts. It's much easier to line up this bolt with just these bolts being loose from the mount to the block. So let's get it on the truck now.